It's time to start having what some are calling very uncomfortable conversations about race relations in our community. I prefer to call them courageous conversations. And I'm using my internet show, Terrell Talk, to get the conversation started. This week, night after night, we've seen protests. People angry about the brutal way George Floyd, let's start over. I'm sorry. It's time to start having what some might call uncomfortable conversations about race relations in our community. I prefer to call them courageous conversations, and I'm using my internet show, Terrell Talk, to get the conversations started. This week, we've seen night after night of protests, people angry about the brutal way George Floyd died in police custody in Minneapolis. Protests happening here and all over the world. In Arkansas, there have been protests in every corner of the state, including the capital city, where some of the demonstrations turned violent. It forced the city to implement a curfew. So that brings me to my guest, Tim Campbell, one of the organizers of the movement leading up protests in Arkansas. Tim, thank you for being with me. You're a grad student at Clinton School of Public Service, bright future. Why are you leading this protest?
I decided to lead this protest because I want to show the world that Arkansas, specifically Little Rock, can come together in solidarity with police officers as well and state legislators and higher-ups and stakeholders, that we can come together and we can grieve in a healthy, expressive manner.
You and your team are meeting with Governor Hutchinson today. What are you hoping for?
We're hoping for that solidarity. We want to show the world, like I said, that healthy expression can happen between police and people of the community. So with that, we see everywhere in our world today where there's a direct split between the police and the people. And we want to bring that together, and we want to collaborate, and we want to get together so that the government can also know what we want as well as a community, so we can move forward and have a greater Arkansas, greater Little Rock, greater Little Rock.
Okay, we're going to talk more about the protests, but we all know the name Colin Kaepernick, the professional football player who took a knee during the national anthem right before the games. We're looking at video of him right now. Many people were outraged when he did this. He lost his job over it. But the message that he was trying to convey is pretty much the same one you're talking about right now. Your thoughts on that?
Right now in America, we have two knees. And now it's coming down to which knee you're going to choose, the knee of justice or the knee of injustice. And for us as a whole in America, it's time to choose the knee of justice. People were outraged about the stance he took at that time. But now I think that with the second knee coming into play with the murder of George Floyd, it's time to talk about the first knee, why it was important, and where we can go to build as a nation from there.
Well, this week, all 4 officers involved in the George Floyd killing, they were arrested. They have been charged. Are protesters happy about that? Because I'm going to tell you, a lot of people are thinking, okay, it's time to stop protesting now. You got what you want. You say what?
To that matter, I think that we have to respect the due process. We have to be patient as people to make sure that there's a conviction that's given. They all have bonds that are set. They are able to be freed out of jail. So as a community, it's important for us to make sure that we're impatient for the due process and the conviction that can come in on the back end. Because right now, the George Floyd case was just more of a tipping point for African Americans. It wasn't necessarily the root cause of all the demonstrations that are happening. Things as we know, America has had plenty ups and downs, specifically in Little Rock with the Little Rock 9 going into Central High School. And recently, earlier last year with the segregation of the LRSD schools. So we want to continue to use our voice in the community to, like I said, again, make Little Rock a better place and show the world that we can all do that in solidarity with our stakeholders and legislators and government officials.
Okay, Tim, let's talk about violence during protests. We were looking at some of it just a minute ago. This week, demonstrators, they broke out windows at the Bank OZK. Something happened similar to that at other businesses around downtown. And as you know, Arkansas Pharmacy Association building was lit on fire. Your thoughts about the violence?
I'm in complete disposition to violence. That is not productive to me. It's counterproductive. I think that people want to start having the property over people discussion, but I also think that they need to understand that where their tax money is going and that these buildings that you're breaking into or vandalizing, it has to stop because they're insured. And potentially there will be their issue can be fixed and solved, but the issue of racism in America may still last. So we have to employ different plans and strategic community engaging ideas to move forward.
Little Rock Police Chief said some of the violence is caused by people from organized groups outside of the state. But I will tell you this, and we know for a fact, only so far anyway, only Arkansans have been arrested for these acts. So do you believe there are really outside influencers mixed in with protests in the city?
I've heard rumors of such, but I cannot confirm that they are here. No one has approached me. I've heard about threats, but I haven't had any personal interactions with anyone. So it's really hard for me to see clearly through who's who, in terms of who's there for solidarity and who's there for vandalism and other things like that. It's really hard for me to take. Me and my group, we have not been active in any other street protests. We've had two protests, the one that happened on Saturday and the one that happened on the Wednesday. And as we both know, Wednesday was considered the most peaceful night that Little Rock has seen in all of the week, and also one of the most peaceful state capitals in all of the nation. After we conducted our protest, there was no vandalism, no looting, or anything like that. So we're just trying to employ better ways to strategize away from those potential threats.
When you have your group together and all of these people, because there are hundreds of people protesting, do you talk to them at all? Do you tell them that there may be people among them that might be bad actors?
I do communicate that. I communicate that countless times throughout the protest. I tell them, hey, we are a family here. And if you're not a part of the family, then you can leave now, but I'm sure some people that are not a part of the family that are going to stay. So with that being said, let's not take any mind to any violence that may occur in the crowd. We're going to keep marching, and we're going to keep on straight ahead, and we're going to express ourselves healthily regardless of who's against that.
I know you said you're not the only organizer of the movement. There are other people involved in this protest helping you. Who are they?
So that's my partner, Drika Wrights, Darren Kidd, and Oya the Poet. We've all collaborated together to pretty much move forward. And we're not necessarily an organized group. We're just all millennials and youth coming out of our own cities. We're all not from the same place. One person's from Earl, Pine Bluff. I'm from Little Rock. Drika's also from Little Rock. To come together and put our ideas and thoughts into one movement. And that's where the name, the movement, originated from.
It's kind of interesting because you brought that up, and now I'm thinking that there are more organizers of other groups as well. Is that correct?
There is other organizers of other groups.
Okay, yeah, I thought so. When will you stop protesting? I think that's what most people want to know. When is this going to stop?
For me and my group specifically, we're now, like you mentioned, we have a meeting with the governor today. We also have things that we want to discuss with him. So after that will determine where we go from here. We want solidarity from the police. We don't plan to protest again unless we have that solidarity with the police and we can create a different theme and a different angle to show the world that we're together. If and when those demands are not met or not acted upon or not expedited, then there will be time and a call for a different kind of protest. And not necessarily it will be walking, but also a different type of organization to where we can move forward as a community.
Some people say that you talk about solidarity with the police force. Some people say the way to change things is to create legislation. I know you told me that in one of your protests, at least one of them, you had people signing people up to vote. I guess that's where you start. But what do you think about legislation to change things and not just protesting or not just talking about solidarity?
In terms of solidarity, in terms of outside of just protesting, I think putting funding back into community policing is very, very important. Because I know coming to myself, I was born on Wolf Street during the gangbanging in Little Rock era, and I remember, regardless of how bad of the neighborhood it was, I remember police coming through on police bikes and giving us candy, being nice to us. So when they came in a militant gear, we understood. We understood. We know who they were. We understood why they were doing what they're doing, because we also understand that why they're doing what they're doing in terms of being a good cop, and when it's time to do things to police our community. So we don't want the police to only show up in the inner cities when it's time to deal with us. We also want them to come into our communities when it's also time to conceal and kneel with us.
Conceal and kneel. All right, with that, we'll leave it there. Tim Campbell with the movement, thank you so much for joining me, and good luck with your meeting with the governor.
All right, thanks.
And thank you for tuning in. I'll have more courageous conversations on Terrell Talk soon. I'm Donna Terrell. I will see you next time.